An ad hominem attack is a form of invalid reasoning in which you attack the person's character rather than their argument. For instance, imagine a situation in which a person is trying to convince you of the ill effects smoking can have on your health, by bringing up lung cancer risks and the damage to your breathing and the general tar that's left in your body as a result of smoking. And instead of criticising their argument, the opponent to the person saying smoking is bad says the person making the argument is fat. Well, so why should they listen to them? Or they find them ugly, so why should they see smoking as bad based on their view? They have committed the ad hominem fallacy. They've made an attack on character rather than on argument. It's something that you see quite a lot in argumentative discourse, be it in politics or in film. So for instance, you can see someone like taking a piece of media and saying, oh well, I don't like this because of reasons A, B, C. And then someone else comes and says, oh well, you're not a true fan, you don't understand, you're just a bit of a snob. And those reasons they fall into the ad hominem attack, because rather than address the argument made, which could be like, oh well, a film isn't shot the way I like, or the film isn't particularly nice sounding, you instead attack the person behind the argument. It doesn't matter whether you think that the critic is a snob, because you're not addressing the argument they presented, thus you've committed the ad hominem fallacy. And there's lots of different types of ad hominem, because they're obviously quite widespread fallacy. Lots of people like to attack the person making the argument rather than the argument themselves. And where you see this most commonly, I'd say, is probably in just general conversation, general discourse. Look at a YouTube comment section, for instance. Underneath many of my own videos, and many videos in general, you see people attacking the person behind the video and making cheap insults rather than the argument. People saying that, oh well, you're stupid, so of course you think this, or you're dumb, of course you have that opinion. Ignore this argument, ignore this person because they're an idiot, they're retarded, all the other general nonsense that you see in the YouTube comment sections. They're examples of ad hominems. One type of ad hominem side in politics is an ad hominem circumstantial, which is essentially an argument saying, well, this person is saying this because they're trying to better themselves, they're trying to make their circumstances more beneficial. So for instance, imagine if someone who ran a bike shop was saying, oh, cars, everyone having a car, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for transportation, it creates unnecessary fumes in the environment, it's generally not a good idea. And then someone else comes along and says, oh well, of course he would say that. He's got a bike shop, he wants bikes to be back in the norm so that he gets more money. That is a circumstantial ad hominem, because you're essentially saying that all his arguments about car inefficiency and car pollution are irrelevant because he has a bike shop he wants to make run better. And obviously that's not addressing the argument presented. Now, what an ad hominem is not, is a legitimate criticism of character. If you're criticising someone's character and saying, oh, this person is X, Y, Z, that is not an ad hominem, because it's not diverting from an argument, it is the argument. What you see a lot also is people criticising those who claim someone else is bigoted or an unpleasant person as an ad hominem attack, and that isn't the case a lot of the time. It's a case that the person who's described someone as a bigot is describing them as a bigot for their argument's sake, because their argument is that this person is a bigot. So for instance, you see people saying, oh well, you can't just call Trump bigoted or sexist or racist because that's an ad hominem, you're attacking his character. But in many of those cases, that is the point of the argument. The character of Donald Trump is a horrid, lurid one. And he is these things, sexist, racist, etc., transphobic, and we want to address that because we're making the argument about the person's character. It's not an ad hominem to say, oh, this person is racist in and of itself, because the argument is that Donald Trump is racist, therefore he is bad. If you were saying, out of the blue in relation to something else, and maybe then it would be an ad hominem, but the idea that someone is a bigot or someone is bigoted is not an ad hominem when it contributes to the argument that's been made. There's an important distinguishing trait between this is bad because X, Y, Z, and that may be bad, but X, Y, Z. If we were saying, oh, this this piece of cake by Trump is bad because Trump is a racist, that would be different, because then we'd be criticising the cake based on something to do with Trump. The argument itself is being ignored and Trump is being focused on. But when Trump is using his racist worldview and sexist worldview to craft his policy, then it becomes a legitimate criticism. And I think this is what people need to learn, that just saying someone's personality trait is negative and someone's outlook on life is negative, it's not an homonym in itself. There's a difference between invalid reasoning and a criticism of character, because, you know, when you have a blur between the two, and when you're just openly calling anything an ad hominem attack, as people do when they see their political aspirations and people they identify with on the political spectrum being criticised for being bigoted or racist, they often say, oh, that's an ad hominem, and that's not the case. So really, you need to focus on what an ad hominem really is, which is namely a fallacious argument in which you attempt to distract from the main argument, or the argument itself, by criticising the character of a person. It's a diversion tactic. It gets you away from the actual argument itself onto defending or attacking a person. And it's a very useful tool for those on the far right and generally the poor arguers stance to attack person over argument, because it makes it easier to distract from the lack of substance one might have whilst defending their own position. So keep your eye out for it when engaging in discourse, because it's quite a common one. And it ought not to be if we want to have good solid arguing and valid reasoning.